Hello, tonight our lesson is on graphing on a coordinate plane. Now you can refer to the video that we watched earlier in the year to look at the details if you've forgotten about the coordinate plane. But the coordinate plane, we have a vertical axis labeled with the variable y, horizontal axis labeled with the variable x. And the very center of our coordinate plane would be where x and y is equal to 0, and that's called the origin. All right, so we've already plotted points on a coordinate plane, but tonight we're going to look at taking an equation, generating ordered pairs, and then plotting them on the coordinate plane. Now, when we have an equation and we generate the ordered pairs, we can think of this analogy, a function machine. Now, we're not going to define what a function is right now. We'll talk more about that as we progress throughout the school year. But when we have an equation, for instance, say something like this, y is equal to x plus 2. Okay, so here's an equation that we can generate ordered pairs or points and then plot them on our coordinate, and we can plot the graph of this equation, y equals x plus 2. Now, our x value is our input value. In other words, in order to generate ordered pairs, we pick values for x, and then we generate a corresponding value of y. And so, for instance, let's say I picked x equal to 0. Okay, if I let x equal 0, then I would put the number 0 into the equation, and then 0 plus 2 would give me a y value of 2. So this analogy of a function machine right here, this analogy shows us that we pick a value for x, an input value. Let's say we put the value 0 into this function y equals x plus 2. Then the output is going to be y is going to equal positive 2. All right, so I'm going to make a little table of values. And I'll put x first and y second, because remember, when we plot ordered pairs, x is always first. So if x is equal to 0, then y would be equal to 2 for this equation y equals x plus 2. All right, so let's pick some more values for x. Let's say I let x equal 1. Okay, so if x equals 1, again, I could think of it as the input value. I'm putting it into this function machine, and I'm going to add 2 to the number 1. So if x equals 1, y would equal 3. That would be my output. Okay, let's pick a couple more points. How about if x equaled negative 1? Let's try that. If x equaled negative 1, what would we get for our output? Well, let's see. Negative 1 plus 2 equals positive 1. So the output would be positive 1. Is that what you were thinking? Good. Okay, so negative 1, positive 1. Let's pick one more value. How about x equals negative 2? What would the output be if x equaled negative 2? That's right, it would be 0, because negative 2 plus 2 is 0. All right, so here are 4 ordered pairs that we can plot on our coordinate plane. All right, so I'll try to do that. So x equals 0, y equals 2 is right there. X equals 1, y equals 3 is right there. If x is negative 1, y is positive 1 is right there. And if x is negative 2, y is 0, that's right on the x-axis. And so our graph is going to look something like this. Okay, so that would be the graph of the equation y equals x plus 2. All right, so here we have a different graph, y equals 2x. All right, so again, let's generate ordered pairs and make a table of values. And remember, X is our input, so we're going to pick values for X. Now notice I don't pick values like X equals 10. That would be far off my graph. I always pick values that are close to the origin, like 0 and 1 and 2, -1, -2. That makes it easier for us to graph. So let's try X equals 0. If X equals 0 for our input, what would the output equal? Well, 2 times X would be 2 times 0. The output would be 0. So one ordered pair is X is 0, Y is 0. Okay, let's pick a couple more. Okay, let's pick X equals 1. And what would you get for X? Or Y, excuse me. What would you get for Y? What would the output be? That's right, it'd be 2. So if X equals 1, Y equals 2. Let's try -1. If X is -1, what will the output be? That's right, it'd be -2. 2 times -1 is -2. All right, so here I have 3 points. And let me go ahead and graph those. If X is 0, Y is 0, is right at the origin. X is 1, Y is 2, is up here in the first quadrant. If X is -1, Y is -2, is down in the third quadrant. So I can see that my graph looks like a line that's going up like this.
Mr. Eccles, please report to room 402.
Hurry, Mr. Eccles, they're waiting. Okay, you try this one. Pick values for X as your input values. Pick at least 3. And then get corresponding output values and then plot them on your graph. You can pause this video and check and see how you did. All right, welcome back from pausing the video. Let's pick our input values. Let's start with 0. If X is 0, what will Y equal? What would the output be? Well, that's right, it'd be 1, right? The opposite of 0 is still 0, and 0 plus 1 is 1. So 0, 1 is one ordered pair. Okay? Now, I don't know what you picked, but I would pick numbers like 1 and -1. So if X is 1, what would Y equal? It would be 0, right? If you substitute 1 in place of X, and then take, it says here there's a minus sign in front of the X, right? That means take the opposite of whatever X is. So if X is 1, the opposite of it would be -1, and then add 1, that's 0. So 1, 0 is another ordered pair. All right, let's try -1. That could be a little tricky, but what would you get if X is -1? Think about it. Well, if X is -1, I'm going to take the opposite of X. That would be +1. And then I'll add 1. That would give me an output of 2. So if X is -1, Y is 2. All right, those are 3 points. That's enough, I think, for us to graph our line. So let's see. If X is 0, Y is 1. It's right on the Y-axis. If X is 1, Y is 0. That's on the X-axis. And if X is -1, Y is 2, is up in the second quadrant. Now that makes sense, right? Because it lines up with the other points. So we're going to have a line, and that looks more like a banana than a line, but we're going to have a line that's going downward to the right like that. So how'd you do? Okay, very good. Thank you for listening, and make sure you have these notes to help you with your classwork tomorrow. And remember, read some books.